Yeah, so since it's the end of the year, it might be a good idea to do a recap, at least a recap from the USCIS point of view as to, what they have done throughout this year to 2022. So they have given us a nice update on what they think they have achieved. So there's some things that might be important. The rest are, it's just a lot of air. But we can dwell upon, some of the interesting things that they have said, just to give people a perspective as to how USCIS did in 2022, what, backlog reduction efforts they've achieved, how many cases they're approved, what new laws, if any, they have, established in order to reduce backlog, etc., reduce processing time. So I thought that would be a good thing to do since we're in December. So just to start, let's first talk about what USCIS did to reduce backlogs. So citizenship cases, they have significantly reduced the backlog compared to 2021. There were about 600,000 cases, and now there are about 200,000 cases. So definitely they have increased processing time. I mean, they have decreased processing time, and they've increased their productivity and increased the number of cases that they were able to approve in 2022. So that's good news. That's for citizenship cases. Making use of the available employment-based visa numbers. That has always been controversial because USCIS has always been faulted with not making use of available numbers. First of all, there is a backlog, and people from China and India have been waiting for years and years, and even when their date becomes current, they're unable to get their green card because USCIS is not able to process their cases fast enough before the fiscal year ends. So all those visa numbers which are available again become unavailable because they're not carried forward to the next year. So that's what's been happening last couple of years, but they are saying that in 2022 they have actually used up all the visa numbers. They used 275,111 green card numbers. Last year they used 195,000 green card numbers. The year before, in 2020, they used only 147,000 green card numbers. So, as you can see, quite a few, as per them, all the green card numbers have been used this year. So that's definitely good news. In addition to that, also EAD issuance, so employment authorization, has been a big problem because of the backlogs in 2021 and 2020 as well. So 2020, we saw EAD processing time skyrocketing to 10 months, 12 months, or sometimes longer. And so USCIS basically saying that they've been able to reduce the backlog for EADs as well. So as a comparison, in September 2021, they had a backlog of about 125,000, a little more than 125,000 EADs. Now they only have about 40,000 cases that need to be processed as of September 2022. So right. As we can see, they have been able to reduce the backlog, which is good news. So that's another, feather on their cap. Also, they're also talking about some new laws that they have implemented, which have helped again people who have suffered from backlogs. It has helped them to a certain extent. So we'll get into that a little later. But first, there is, a known labor shortage, especially for seasonal workers, agricultural workers, etc., and non-agricultural workers. So they have increased the number of the numbers available for agricultural workers, non-agricultural workers, H2B, to 64,000. Last year, they only gave out 55,000. This year, they've increased the numbers to 64,000. So that's also good news for those who file H2Bs, those employers who file H2Bs. Also, they have published a comprehensive menu of options available for STEM people in order to file O1 cases. So there's a detailed policy guidance on how people in the field of STEM can file an O1 non-migrant petition for under extraordinary ability. This is really not anything new. It's not a new law, but they're just explaining and they give examples of what can be applicable in a STEM field, because O1 is usually used in the arts and some other fields, but not so much in science. So that was a document that I don't know how useful it's been, but definitely an effort on their part to encourage more STEM people to file O1s. Also, authorizing spouses of E and L visa holders. Before E dependents and L dependents had to get EADs, which was actually not the law, but USCIS was insisting on applying for an EAD, and we knew that EADs were taking so long, so a lot of people couldn't work. There was a gap in employment. They have authorized now this year E and Ls to work without the requirement of filing an EAD. So they're automatically authorized incidental to their status, which is the way it should be. So they've done that. They've made some reforms with EB5 category, which is the investor category. They've also made established a process for healthcare and childcare workers to make an expedited request for processing the initial EAD application if the EAD application has been pending for more than 90 days. So that's another thing that they've allowed them to file for expedite request. Also, expansion of premium processing. They haven't really done much of that, but we're hoping that something will happen next year. And of course, we should double the number of employment-based petitions, immigrant visas, as I discussed in in my earlier, when I was talking about that. Now, new commitments for 2023. So this is a promise kind of thing, a commitment that they're trying to make for 2023. This is certainly interesting. Implementing premium processing for all employer petitions. So that's good for for all 5 I-140s, certain EADs, certain EADs for 765 students, as well as immigrant petitions, EADs. So they want to do premium processing for that, which is great. More money for them, and a lot of people will be benefited by a premium processing application, because it's supposed to be processed in 30 days. Also, in addition to that, they've said removing the requirement for submitting biometrics whenever you file for a change or extension of non-immigrant statuses. So whenever you file an I-539 application, when you file an application for an F1 or a B2, they're asking for biometrics, which was not required earlier, but they started requiring it under the Trump administration, and so they're going to try to remove that next year. This will really simplify and decrease the processing time for I-539 applications. Right now, it's 10 to 12 months, which is really a long time for a change of status application. Also, they've been talking about simplifying many of the forms so that the processing time is decreased. It's easier for automated processing. For example, the EAD application. They were saying that even a robot could look at it and auto-generate look at the responses and kind of auto-approve it with minimal supervision from an actual human being. This could really decrease the processing time for EADs, which is the I-765. They also want to simplify the 485. The 485 is very complicated right now, just by the way it's written, and how things have been added over the years in a very jumbled fashion, haphazard fashion. So that could certainly help. Also, the citizenship application is, I think, far too long and with too much information required. So they want to simplify that as well. And that's good news as well. So there's no huge story here, but just gradual progress with reference to the problems that they're facing.